You weren't unlucky with women. You were loyal to weakness. And weakness always takes its payment. Every fall you went through, every time someone hurt you, every cold treatment that hurt you deeply was not her fault. It was the price you kept paying because you stayed devoted to being fragile. She didn't break you. You taught her to treat you badly. Look at the broken pieces of your past. The nights you stayed awake writing text messages she never replied to. The dinners where you begged for tiny bits of love. The years you spent saying sorry for things you never did. Each action carved weakness deeper into the way you carried yourself until your own body taught her not to respect you. She didn't have to destroy you. You were already a statue of your own surrender. So now you stand here broken, divorced, thrown away, believing the lie that you were simply unlucky. But let's take off the mask. You weren't unlucky. You were predictable. Being predictable is not love. Being predictable is not strength. Being predictable is slow death. And women smell death faster than you can smell devotion. If attention, gifts, and endless apologies never made her stay, what does? If every poem, every flower, every begging speech only pushed her further away, what is the missing rule you refuse to learn? What turns a man from replaceable to rare in a woman's nervous system? Why does she laugh with you on Monday, then erase you on Tuesday, and then attach herself to another man by Friday? And why is that man never the one who worshipped her most? The answers are not buried in feelings. They are not found in love stories or in the shrines you built at her feet. The answers live in psychology, biology, and law. There are rules older than your marriage, deeper than your heartbreak, colder than your illusions. Until you understand them, you will remain what you always were. A man begging for mercy from a system that does not negotiate with the weak. Today that ends because today you will get 5 secrets. Not tricks, not manipulations, not cheap tactics. Secrets. These 5 will rewire your stance, your timing, and your rituals with women. They are not lessons in flattery. They are not instructions in begging. They are laws. And the man who carries law is the man she cannot replace. Pay attention to the 5th secret. Secret number 5 is the spine of the whole structure. It is called the attachment architecture. It is not a gimmick. It is not manipulation. It is the sequence by which human nervous systems bond through time. It is the pattern that converts attention into addiction. And it does not belong to chance. It belongs to design. Once you understand it, obsession is no longer an accident. It is the outcome of architecture. But before you arrive there, you must burn the lies that ruined you. You must unlearn the 3 great errors that made you soft clay in her hands. First, you must learn how to hold frame when she tests you without exploding, without begging, without surrender. Second, you must learn to inject novelty and challenge at the precise dose, replacing safe and dull with alive and ordered. Third, you must learn that emotional attachment is not forged by gifts or constant texts. It is built through cycles of architecture, peaks, spaces, anchors, and stories that her nervous system cannot ignore. Stay to the end because secret number 5 is where addiction stops being an accident and becomes design. Secret number 5 is where your story stops being tragedy and starts being law. So listen carefully. Forget sympathy. Forget excuses. Forget the lie that you were a victim of her cruelty. If you're ready to drop the victim mask, let's begin. Secret number 1, Law of Frame and Direction. A woman can follow a man's lead. She will never follow his panic. That is the first law you must carve into your bones. You thought leadership meant rescuing her. You mistook direction for control and control for love. You smothered her with advice she never asked for, interventions she never respected, and solutions she never valued. And every time you tried to save her, she learned one thing. You are a man with no frame. A man drowning in his own fear. A man desperate to prove his worth through noise. Understand this. Women do not get addicted to men who shout louder. They get addicted to men who hold structure while the world shakes. A frame is not a cage. A frame is gravity. Gravity does not beg. Gravity does not explain. Gravity does not apologize for existing. Gravity simply pulls and everything else orbits. Direction is not about forcing your opinion onto her. Direction is the art of holding a boundary so firm and so calm that she can breathe inside it. You give her the container, not the commands. You offer her a frame in which her choices still belong to her, but her chaos meets your clarity. This is the paradox. She follows because you never demanded she follow. The rule is simple. Give advice only when asked. In every other moment, listen, reflect, set limits, let silence carry the weight of your presence. Your calm firmness tells her nervous system more than 1,000 words. Frame means standards, boundaries, and consistent consequences. It is calm firmness that never flinches. Think about your past. You scrambled to fix everything. Her mood, her family drama, her crises at work. You thought this was devotion. But she saw something else. Weakness. She learned that your time and your energy were cheap, endlessly available without cost. And when something is cheap, it cannot command respect. When you finally embody law of frame, her biology recognizes it instantly. She feels safe, but not because you bent yourself into a servant. She feels safe because you refuse to bend when storms arrive. You do not lose your posture in panic. You do not lose your standards in fear. You become the still point in the chaos. And the paradox of female psychology attraction is this. Safety and leadership ignite desire. Frame is how you stop being replaceable. Frame is how you turn from one more man in her inbox to the axis she calibrates her life against. Frame is how you shift from predictable kindness into rare presence. Women get addicted to men who do not lose themselves in her storms. She becomes obsessed not with your attention but with the order your presence creates. Now the task is practical. Audit your week. Where did you give advice no one asked for? Where did you offer direction as a mask for panic? Cut it. Remove it. Every uninvited word is a tax on your authority. Stop spending what you cannot afford. Do not confuse frame with tyranny. Direction without dignity is not leadership. It is control. And control always rots into resentment. But direction with dignity becomes the law she leans into. Dignity lives in how you treat her, but also in how you treat the world. Your frame is not just for her. It is the axis of your entire existence. So remember the law. A woman can follow a man's lead. She will never follow his panic. Audit yourself. Cut the noise. Stand firm. Direction without dignity becomes control. Dignity lives in how you treat her and the world. Secret number 2, polarity by dignity. Open the door, but don't open your spine. That is the law of polarity by dignity. You were taught that chivalry means sacrifice. That being a gentleman means bending your back until it breaks. Handing over your time, your money, your pride, as if virtue were measured in wounds. That lie turned you into an actor in a tragic comedy. The polite servant who mistakes obedience for nobility. Real chivalry is not begging in costume. Real chivalry is the external ritual of an internal law. Dignity. You open the door not because you crave points, not because you hope she'll reward you with affection, but because it is your standard. It is how you treat the world, not how you manipulate a woman. The action is not performance. It is declaration. Polarity is the ancient axis of attraction. Masculine energy is stillness, structure, the rooted oak. Feminine energy is movement, expression, the wind that bends around the oak's form. If you keep your axis, she is free to be soft. If you collapse your axis, she hardens because someone must hold the structure. And when she hardens, polarity dies. Attraction dies. Polarity is not about macho aggression. It is not about barking orders or puffing your chest. It is about staying immovable in standards while still extending generosity. You can walk on the outside of the sidewalk, not because you hope she notices, but because danger belongs on your side. You can hold the door open, not because you hope for a smile, but because you are the kind of man who does not walk first into safety. But here is the law. Chivalry without standards is comedy. You can be the kindest man alive, but if you do it from hunger, she will despise you. You can be the most romantic man alive, but if your gestures are bribes, she will laugh behind your back. Women do not fall in love with servants. Women get addicted to men who can give generously without surrendering their core. Every act of chivalry must stand beside an act of boundary. You hold her hand crossing the street and in the same breath you decline her attempt to dictate your values. You buy her dinner, but you will not tolerate her disrespect. You listen to her words, but you do not abandon your own direction. This pairing, kindness with backbone, is the only combination that scales attraction instead of killing it. Think of your past. How many times did you do everything right only to be discarded anyway? You opened doors. You paid bills. You sacrificed time. And yet, she replaced you. Why? Because she felt your spine melting behind the smile. She sensed the hidden transaction. If I serve enough, will you finally love me? That question stinks of desperation. Desperation kills polarity. But when you move with dignity, the effect is entirely different. She feels your generosity as a gift, not a plea. She senses your backbone as unshakable, not negotiable. And her nervous system learns a new equation. Here is a man whose kindness costs him nothing because his standards cannot be bought. That is when respect ignites. That is when desire anchors. That is when she begins to orbit. So the task is simple and brutal. This week, practice one visible act of chivalry. Hold a door, stand on the outside, protect without asking for applause. Then in the same week, practice one boundary. Say no to a request. Refuse a demand. Speak calmly without anger, without apology. Pair these two actions together. Watch how different the energy feels. Remember this. Dignity without self-mastery is hollow ritual. You can mimic the forms, but if you collapse inside, she will see through it. True dignity is born from self-control. It is not the roses you hand her. It is the unshakable ground you stand on while handing them. Chivalry with standards is not theater. It is polarity by law. Secret number 3, containment. Master your temper. If you can't hold your fire, you can't hold her trust. That is the law of containment. You believe that anger proved your strength. You thought raising your voice, throwing your hands, unleashing sarcasm, or performing righteous fury would remind her who the man is. But every eruption, every cynical jab, every theatrical sigh, these are not signals of power. They are confessions of weakness. A man who cannot contain himself cannot contain her world. Understand this. Containment is not repression. Containment is mastery. To repress is to deny your fire exists. To contain is to acknowledge the flame, place it in a vessel, and let it illuminate without burning the house down. Your emotions are real. But unless you frame them, they are noise. Noise does not inspire trust. Noise inspires distance. Containment means 3 moves. Breathe, delay, deliver. When the surge rises, you do not vomit it onto her. You inhale slowly. You pause. You allow your nervous system to slow the drumbeat. Then you deliver your words short, slow, and specific. That rhythm is strength. It is not the length of your speech that persuades. It is the weight of your restraint. Never turn your private chaos into her burden. Your panic is not her job. Your rage is not her trash bin. She is not a container for your unprocessed storms. The moment you dump on her, she feels unsafe. And when a woman feels unsafe, she does not soften. She hardens. She retreats. She prepares for war. Containment is the antidote. Think back to your own history. How many times did you lose her because you couldn't hold yourself? One careless outburst in an argument. One sarcastic jab when you felt ignored. One emotional avalanche when she pulled away. In those moments, you imagined you were showing strength. But what she saw was panic. Panic signals instability. Instability signals danger. And women never attach themselves to danger unless it thrills them. But thrill without safety is chaos, not love. Containment, however, creates paradox. Safety and intensity at once. When you absorb the storm inside you, she feels free to lower her guard. She senses that you can handle life without making her the sponge for your emotions. She begins to trust that your strength is not in the size of your outbursts, but in the depth of your calm. Trust is born in that silence between her chaos and your measured reply. Do you want practical proof? Next time you argue, use the 3-sentence structure. Fact, state the reality without embellishment. Feeling. Name your emotion in one word. Boundary. State the line you hold. For example, you canceled our plan twice this week. I feel disappointed. If it happens again, I won't reschedule. That is containment. It is calm, short, decisive. It leaves no debris. Contrast this with your old style. Lectures, accusations, begging, or fury. Those were storms. This is steel. She does not respect the storm. She respects the steel. Containment does not mean silence forever. It does not mean swallowing poison. It means creating order in how you reveal yourself. It is the architecture of your emotional house. If the walls are weak, the roof collapses on her. If the walls are strong, the fire can glow inside without burning either of you. Never forget, women fall in love with men who can hold space. A man who cannot hold his own space cannot hold hers. Containment is not a trick. It is the proof of law. Audit yourself this week. Where did you dump your chaos on her or anyone else? Where did your fire spill uncontrolled? Replace it with the structure. Breathe. Delay. Deliver. You can't build attraction on reactivity. You build it on novelty with order. Secret number 4. Novelty and mystery with order. Predictable kindness bores. Structured surprise bonds. That is the law of novelty with order. You believed consistency meant safety. You thought showing up with the same compliments, the same dinners, the same flowers on the same dates would prove your devotion. You thought being endlessly available, endlessly kind, endlessly predictable would lock her heart. But predictability kills polarity. Predictability tells her nervous system, nothing more to learn here, nothing more to feel here, nothing more to stay for. Understand this. Women are not addicted to chaos, but they are addicted to contrast. They are addicted to the edges where safety meets surprise. This is why bad boys seem to capture her attention. It wasn't because of cruelty. It was because they gave her novelty. They injected variance into her emotional rhythm. But cruelty and manipulation corrode trust. What you must learn is how to extract the fuel of novelty while discarding the poison of drama. The formula is clear. Novelty plus order. You create new experiences, but you do not abandon structure. You break monotony, but you never break trust. This is the architecture of addictive bonds. The principle has 3 parts. Newness. Introduce a shift. A new location, a different activity, a change in rhythm. It doesn't need extravagance. Even a small break in pattern sparks attention. Space after the peak. Create a pause. Do not cling. Do not flood her with endless follow-ups. Allow her nervous system to absorb the imprint. Anchor. Link the novelty to meaning. Tell her why. Attach the memory to something larger than the act itself. Think of gifts, compliments, trips. Most men hand them out like predictable tokens: birthdays, anniversaries, obligatory holidays. That is not bonding. That is calendar slavery. Replace obligation with surprise. Replace ritual with design. Give a gift on a Tuesday with no warning, but link it to a story that matters. Compliment her not when she expects it, but when her guard is down. Change the rhythm of your presence. A new restaurant one week, silence for a day after, followed by a handwritten note that ties it together. That is not randomness. That is novelty with order. Why does this work? Because the human nervous system learns through contrast. Peaks followed by space. Crescendos followed by silence. Without silence, the music dissolves into noise. Without peaks, silence becomes neglect. Together, they form the emotional outlines her body cannot ignore. Look back at your past failures. You smothered her with kindness. You texted her every morning and every night. You thought consistency was security. Instead, it became suffocation. She left not because you were unkind, but because you were predictable. Predictability numbs. Predictability erases desire. Now, imagine this instead. One week you take her somewhere unexpected, something that challenges both of you just enough to spark adrenaline. Afterward, you vanish for 24 hours, not in cruelty, but in design. She wonders. She recalls. Her body replays the experience. Then you return, not empty-handed, but with an anchor, a symbol, a phrase, a reminder that ties back to the peak. That cycle writes itself into her memory. That cycle bonds her without games, without lies. Your task is simple. Schedule one new experience this week. Then schedule one deliberate silence the day after. Do not explain. Do not apologize. Let the gap breathe. Then return with one small anchor, a token or phrase that links back to the moment. Remember, women fall in love with men who design emotional architecture, not men who repeat rituals until they rot. Predictable kindness bores, structured surprise bonds, novelty sparks, architecture holds. Secret number 5, the attachment architecture. She doesn't bind to attention, she binds to architecture. Attention fades. Architecture lasts. You spent years flooding her with focus, texting her every morning, sending her constant reminders of devotion, showering her with gifts, attention, apologies, and what did it buy you? Nothing. Attention without architecture evaporates. It creates stimulation, not attachment. It excites her for a moment, then dissolves into forgettable noise. What binds a woman to a man is not the flood of attention. It is the structure of experience. The human nervous system bonds through cycles, not floods. Desire is not a straight line. Desire is a rhythm. You must learn to engineer that rhythm. That rhythm is the attachment architecture. The architecture runs on 4 steps. Peak, space, anchor, story. Step 1, peak. Create a peak of meaningful emotion. Not empty thrill, not manipulative chaos. A peak can be a shared aesthetic moment, a small risk taken together, or a common victory achieved. It is not about cost. It is about charge. A hike at dawn, a small challenge you both overcome, a dinner cooked together with deliberate elegance, a moment her nervous system registers as heightened. That is the spark. Step 2, space. After the peak, step back. Do not suffocate the memory by clinging. Do not erase the energy by flooding her with messages. Give her nervous system 24 hours to replay the moment, to relive it in silence. This is not absence. This is consolidation. Her biology needs space to crystallize attachment. Without space, peaks dissolve into white noise. Step 3. Anchor. Return with a token, a small gift, a note, a private signal that ties back to the peak. It does not have to be grand. It only has to connect. A pressed flower from the hike. A phrase written on a card. A song lyric sent at the right time. This anchor fuses the memory into her nervous system. It transforms a fleeting moment into a recurring imprint. Step 4. Story. Name the moment. Give it language. Humans do not remember days. They remember stories. You must frame the peak into narrative. This was the night we broke the old script. This is the place where we discovered our edge. Without story, the memory drifts. With story, the memory embeds. The anchor keeps it alive. The story keeps it meaningful. This cycle is not a trick. It is not manipulation. It is design. Repeat the cycle every 2 to 3 weeks. Vary the context. Vary the level of challenge. Vary the meaning. Do not repeat the same motif until it becomes mechanical. Novelty plus rhythm is the formula. Understand the ethics. Attachment architecture is not cruelty. It is not the cheap drama of disappearing and returning. It is not starving her of attention so that she crawls back. That is the game of boys. Architecture is the law of men. Tragedy comes from power games. Bonding comes from rhythm, meaning, and structure. When you provide attachment architecture, she feels two things at once, safety and aliveness. That combination is the rarest drug in the world. Safety without aliveness becomes boredom. Aliveness without safety becomes chaos. Together they form addiction. She cannot explain why she feels bound to you, but her nervous system knows. She does not attach to your apologies. She attaches to the architecture you provide. Now act. Design your first cycle this week. 1 peak, 1 space, 1 anchor, 1 story. Do not overthink. Make the peak small but real. Allow a deliberate 24-hour pause. Return with a personal anchor. Give the moment language. That is your first cycle. Remember, architecture without a man is just blueprint. You must become the man who carries it. You weren't abandoned. You abandoned your laws. You built your life on apologies instead of architecture, on gifts instead of gravity, on panic instead of frame. And the result was inevitable. Collapse. She didn't betray you. You betrayed yourself. Understand this. Women do not attach to men who erase their own laws. They may take what they can. They may enjoy the convenience, but they never bind themselves to it because no nervous system can calibrate to emptiness. No woman can surrender into a man who surrenders himself. But the opposite is also true. When you carry purpose, when you hold your frame, when you design attachment instead of begging for it, something deeper than choice awakens in her. She doesn't decide to love you. Her nervous system bonds to you. Her body writes your presence into its architecture. She calibrates her rhythm to your law. And in that moment, you stop chasing. She begins orbiting. That is the final truth you must face. Attraction is not random. Addiction is not accident. Obsession is not luck. These are structures. Structures older than your heartbreak, deeper than your wounds, stronger than your excuses. You were not unlucky. You were undisciplined. And discipline, not desperation, is the axis of desire. Drop the victim mask. It has served you long enough. It kept you pitiful. It kept you small. It convinced you that you were noble for suffering. It disguised your cowardice as romance. Burn it. Because as long as you wear that mask, every woman will see you as one thing, replaceable. Stand up as the standard she calibrates to. Standards attract. Standards addict. Standards endure. Now, your next move is not optional. You must protect what you built today. You have designed attraction through frame, polarity, containment, novelty, and attachment architecture. But design means nothing if you allow leaks to undo it. And the truth is you are leaking every day in habits you do not see. That is why your next step is essential. Watch the next video, Frame Killers. 9 Everyday Habits That Make You Powerless. Because while today you learn to design attraction, tomorrow you must learn how to stop destroying it. Think about it. You may build a frame, but if you sabotage it with neediness, it crumbles. You may cultivate polarity, but if you let insecurity seep into every gesture, it dies. You may create novelty, but if you slide back into predictable routines, it dissolves. 9 small leaks are draining your strength daily, and until you seal them, everything you build today will collapse tomorrow. You designed attraction today. Tomorrow, remove the 9 leaks that silently dissolve it. That is your path forward. Do not delay. Men who delay rot in their ruins. Men who act rise. Before you go, one final command. Rewatch. Secret number 5. Build your first cycle this week. 1 peak, 1 space, 1 anchor, 1 story. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Do it. Standards beat stories. Architecture beats excuses. Law beats luck. You were never abandoned. You only abandoned your laws. Now restore them. Now embody them. Now live them.